Okay, we're going to start a new project today. And this new project is just this interesting game, and our goal is to learn a lot about blocks. Okay, and so I'm going to maybe overkill use blocks today, but hopefully you get to see what they do and how they're used because these are going to come up later, and I want you to have some experience with them. Blocks are super helpful, um, and they just make your code a lot easier to work through and reuse, which is super nice. Okay, I'm going to start off by changing my backdrop because we're going to create a typing game. So we go to backdrops. I'm just going to change it. I'm going to keep it pretty simple. What I want for this backdrop is I want a line down the middle. Okay, just like that. Okay, good enough. And now, I'll change a little bit more just to make it look good. I'm going to add some text. It's in vector. Should always be in vector. This side's going to be player one, and this side's going to be player two. It's going to be a two-player game, which is going to be kind of fun. Not that you can have anyone else touch your Chromebook, but two-player games are cool. All right, so let's add a sprite. So we've got our backdrop as player one, player two. That's how it's going to be. Let's choose a sprite, and for this one, type in block, and you'll see these letters. Now I want the left hand of the keyboard to be player one, and the right hand of the keyboard to be player two. So I'm just going to do the letters A, S, D, F, okay? But eventually you should expand it to be more letters because I think that would be more fun. But ASDF is actually, it works pretty good. So block A is my first letter. I'm going to move that over here. Now I want all four of my letters to be one block though, where I just switch costumes, because otherwise it's way more difficult to program. And so what I want to do is I want to add different costumes to this block. And so I'm going to go to add costumes. Where's this? Okay, so I go to costumes. Got this thing in my way here. There we go. And I'm going to add a new costume down there at the bottom. And I'll type in block. And my next one I want to be S. So I'll just click S. And now you can see we've got, right away, two costumes, A and S. Now I also want to add D and F. So I just go here again. A bit monotonous, but block D is next. And one more. Come on. Ugh, this is annoying. And F. Here we go. I don't know if you can see that, but this thing that is filming me is getting in the way. But anyways, A, S, D, F. You can add more letters here, and it'll adapt your code a bit. But that's good enough. I've got these four letters, and what I want to do is I want to prompt the user to type a letter, and they have to type it. And if they get it right, they get a point. If they get it wrong, they lose a point. Okay, and it's going to be a race against the other player, and so you want to type as fast as you can. But if you get it wrong, you lose points, and maybe it'll be a race to like 25. So anyways, let's make a variable to track the scores. Left hand score. So left score. And I'll just drag this so it shows right here because I think they'll want to see. And so left score is 0. And that makes sense. And so what I want to do is, obviously, you guys are somewhat familiar with like how to start the game. And so when we started, it was when flag is clicked, then we start the game. But since making your intro, you know that you don't want to start the game on flag clicked. You want to start the game on broadcast of start game. Because if you broadcast start game, then it's really easy to just remove this, do an introduction, and when they click a button, start the game. And so this is easy to modify later on. Okay, and so that's what we'll do. But the thing is, we need some things to also take place. When we start the game, we need the score to be 0. We need this sprite to move to the right location. Okay, I think that's a great spot right there. We need the size to be good. And so I'm going to create a block. Okay, so here's our first block. And you click make a block, and you can make a block. And so these are all blocks, right? When you look at a block like motion, this is a block that moves the character 10 steps in whatever direction it's facing. This turns it, right? Well, what do we want our block to do? And so I'm going to make a block. And what you do is you go here and you can make the block name. I'm going to make it reset. Okay, and hit OK. And now we can define what reset is going to do. Now and look, we've got a block. We can drag this and use this anywhere. So before I start the game, I'm going to reset the game. Okay, so when flag is clicked, the game is going to reset. Now what do we want reset to do? I want to show, do we want to show the sprite or hide the sprite? Probably show the sprite, set size to 100. Wait, I don't think we care. Well, sure, we can start with the same costume, set costume to block A. And so these are all the things we want to happen, and maybe go to this position just in case it got moved somehow. Why don't we make Y 0? That just makes more sense. Okay, and so now if we move things around, oh, we could also, if we're resetting, we should set the score. So set left score to 0, all these things. And so no matter what things are, okay, if we like change the left score when we click the flag, it's going to reset. Boom, it goes A to the middle, score is 0. This is beautiful. And now anytime that we use this reset, what is it going to do? It's going to do all of this code. Okay, so if you click the button reset, it runs all of this. Isn't that awesome? It's kind of like a broadcast. It's just a bit easier to use. Okay, and a little smaller scale. Really handy. And so I'm going to try to overkill it with resets this time. Okay, so we reset the game and then we broadcast start game. Now, what do we want to do when it's a start game? Well, we probably want to, um, I guess, start listening and waiting for the user to enter a button. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's start when we receive start game. Okay, so when I receive a message start game, what I want to do is I want to get a new guess. I want this to be random. Okay, and so to get random, I think what we want to do is like we got to pick how do we get a random block. Uh, what I'm going to do is because we're going to want to do this often, right? We're going to be able to anytime just get a random block. Okay, maybe let's make a block called what should we call it? Next letter. Okay, and what that's going to do is we're going to make next letter. So when I receive start game, next letter. Okay, and what should next letter do? This is where we define it. Define what next letter should do. So what we want to do is we want to get a random block here, but the letter is just a costume, right? So we just got to switch the costume to a random costume. So looks is where you switch costume. Okay, but how do we know which one? So we could select any one of them, but how do you make it random? Okay, um, so what we're going to do is how many costumes do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you see how they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4? So how do we do a random number from 1 to 4? In operators, just pick random, and you can actually slide that in there because the computer remembers which one is which just by a number. And so really, costumes are numbers. This is number 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you pick a random from 1 to 4, you'll get the next letter. Okay. And now let's just really make sure that it's going to work. So we do a show just to make sure. And then let's also set size to 100. Okay, so now when we start the game, we get a random letter every time. D, we're getting a random, okay, so that's sweet. We get a random letter, but now we also have to, so anytime we hit next letter, anytime we use this block, we're going to get the next letter. We'll use that again later, okay, because this just starts the game. Now what we want to do is we want to click a button, okay, and so the easiest way to sense if a letter's been clicked is we use these. And let's just see if it works for A. Okay, so we got A and we got S and D and F. And what we want to do when A is clicked is we want to then check if they clicked, if A is what's showing. Okay, now remember, A is costume 1, S is costume 2, D is costume 3, F is costume 4. So we're going to use these numbers in order to check if they're right. Okay, and so we're going to create another block. I know I'm overkilling with blocks, but I want to show you, and this is a really cool feature that blocks have. Okay, and we're going to call this block check correct. Okay, and this check correct is going to need a number. Okay, and that's num letter clicked. Okay, so the number of the letter clicked is what we need, and then we can check uh, if it's the number of the costume that we're showing. Okay, and so what we did is we said if you want to check if the user clicked the right number, the right letter, then give me a number. Okay, and look how you can drag this out. This is the number that they clicked. Give me a number, and and I'll tell you if it's the same number that's showing on the screen. Okay, so here's how we do that. It's fairly simple. We need to just check if, where are we here? Equals. Okay, so going if and equals. If the number that was clicked is equal to, and then go to looks and do costume number. Okay, and so if the number clicked is the same as a costume number, so how do we know? So right now D is showing, and so the costume number, if I double click this, it's 3, right? Because D, that's my, interesting. Okay, because D is number 3, okay? And so if the number clicked is also 3, then they got it right. And so what we're going to do is, if A is clicked, all we have to do is we have to check correct. But we have to check correct with A is number 1, block number 1. That's up in the top corner. So check correct 1. Okay, and so A gets used. Now I'm going to duplicate this. And now the next letter is S. So I'm going to scroll down to S. If S is clicked, then we have to check if number 2 is correct, right? If number 2 is a costume up there. And I'm going to duplicate this and do this with ASD. So D is clicked. Then hopefully costume number 3 is showing. And that's how we'll know it's correct. I'll duplicate that and do it again, but with the letter F. And that should be number 4. Okay. And so let's just see if this is working let's get a good sound here. I think a good sound is, oh, there we go, is chirp. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so let's go to our code. If they get it right, let's play the chirp sound. Okay, and let's also change our score. Variables, change left score by 1. Okay, so let's play this game. Now if we hit F, nice, F. Awesome. Now what's the problem? Is this never switches letters. Well, how hard is this going to be to get the next letter? Well, after we check correct, next letter. Now let's play. Awesome. This is sweet. Okay, this is already working. So you can see the next letter was super easy because we made something, right? We made something to do that. And check correct was super helpful because we could just say check correct with the number 3, right? And so this is working, okay? And so what we want to do next is, what if they get it wrong, okay? And so then we need to react to the guess. If they get it right, then we do something. If they get it wrong, then they do something else. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one more block, okay, which is react to guess. This is going to be cool. Our input is going to be a Boolean. Now, Boolean is one of these triangle things, which is either true or false. Okay, I'm going to call that correct. Okay, and so all we got to do here is react to guess, and then drag this green thing where if numbers clicked is equal to costume number, that means they got it right, and that's it. And so this is going to return. This is going to send true if it's true, and false if they got it wrong. Okay, and so what this means is, if they got it correct, so if we do this, if they got it, I can drag this correct. I don't know if you saw what I did there. You can drag this correct from here. And so if they got it correct, correct is going to be, and then this is going to run. They're going to sound the chirp and change the score by 1. Okay. But what I want to do is, what if they don't get it correct? Okay. So I'm going to move this all to the side, and instead of this if then, I'm going to use an if then else. Okay. So if they got it correct, then I'm going to play the chirp sound and change the score by 1. Okay, and I'm going to do one other thing here because it just looks cool. I'm going to set size to 120, maybe 130. It looks cool, and I'm going to wait like a tenth of a second, maybe 20th of a second. Oh, wrong one. Uh, there we go. And control, I'm going to wait just a short amount of time, 0.2 seconds, and that's going to look pretty sweet. But what if they get it wrong? Okay, so here we can play this again. That looks sweet. Then we should do next letter. That looks really cool. If you get it wrong, nothing happens. Okay, good. But if they get it wrong, that's the else. If they don't get it correct, then they got it wrong. But what do we want to do? We want to, let's get one more sound because this just sounds sweet. Let's search. And I looked for the sound duck. Awesome. Okay. And so what we're going to do is let's play the sound duck and let's change the score. Oh, here's the thing that I did. I changed the motion, change size, change where's size? Oh, that's looks. I changed the size by -10, so I made it smaller. Okay, so it gets smaller, and I repeat that 10 times, so it gets to like basically 0. Repeat 10 times as it's playing the sound duck, and then I got to change the score by -1. Change the left score by 1, and then make that a -1. Okay, and then I go next letter. Okay, so when we react to guess, if it's true, this is what we do. If it's false, we get that. Let's play. S. Wrong. Uh, Very cool. All right, great game. We've got this working already. And so this is all I'm doing for you guys today. What I want you guys to be doing next is trying to work with this and recreate it on the left side. So what you're gonna have to do is create a new sprite with the left side letters and try to use as many blocks as possible. I know I'm overkilling it with blocks, but they're super helpful. You can make them do whatever you want, and all you got to do is use this, and you can do inputs and you could use them whenever. So you saw we could use the next letter, super easy, and it runs the code that you want it to do. And so do your best to formulate this for the left side, for the right side, and then you can have two players playing against each other and add different letters. And this is going to be our last game in Sprite, and so have fun with it, and then we'll be starting scratch, and we'll be moving on soon. Okay, that's it.